Hi, everyone. From me, a very excited Brent Graham, and thanks for joining me for this Tour de France Stage 18 preview. What a stage we got in store. 3 out of category climbs. And yes, Visma, they are going to roll the dice for sure. Before we get started, if you are new to the Good for the Game Extra channel, hit the subscribe button and the bell. Make sure you get notified of future uploads. And of course, you can hit the like button as well. Let's get into the action, though. Stage 17 results. We got Milan, who was the second favorite for the stage. He got the win in a wet and dangerous sprint. Big accident near the end, which took out quite a few of the sprinters, including Gourmet, who unfortunately got quite badly injured, and the likes of Caden Groves. I actually had Groves over Gourmet, and I had DeLee over Danesi, who finished 4th and 6th. I actually had quite a nice double there on the Good for the Game forum. As far as my stage picks go, DeLee gave me a run for my money. He actually clipped Milan's wheel right near the end there. Very lucky to stay up, I must say. I was happy he held on to deliver the double there at least. And Wout van Aert, he did try a solo bridge to the break at one point, but he was unsuccessful. Milan taking the intermediate, 11 points there behind the 4-man breakaway. But there was some drama on the first categorized climb. I mean, there were no big climbs, but the first one was a fairly steep. And Milan and a number of the other sprinters were distanced. But I felt the peloton up front took a bit too long to get organized, and some great riding by his teammates. In particular, I thought Simmons was absolutely superb today, the way he tried to control the tempo to allow Milan back in and chase down all the breakaways. He really has had a great Tour de France. But anyway, that's the flat stage over with. Quick look at the outright, the yellow jersey classification. Of course, there's no change there. We still got Pogačar leading Vingegaard by 4:15. Third place, 9 minutes behind. And after that, it's into double digits behind the leader there. The betting, of course, Pogačar, very short at 1-20. Although I note with interest, there's been a bit of a drift in Pogačar's price. I'm talking about like from a 3% return for your money to like a 5 or 6%, depending on where you're betting. And Jonas has come in just slightly, and that is ahead of the stage 18. And the fact that on stage 16, Pogačar didn't quite look his dominant self, and certainly there was big improvement by Vingegaard there. But let's have a look then at the green jersey. I did a bit of calculations, and I posted it on X earlier. I thought Milan needed pretty much 30 points to almost guarantee the green jersey from Pogačar, and he got 11, and then of course he delivered the big 50 at the end. And look at him now. He's 72 points ahead. I can only see Pogačar taking a maximum of 40 points from here on in. So as far as I'm concerned, Milan just has to stay on his bike and, of course, avoid the time cut, which could be a factor on stage 18. You can get a 7% return on your money. Tempting, but yeah, I don't think I'll go for it. I actually almost went for the 30% return this morning, but also decided better of it. I've run into too many of those traps before in the Tour de France. Right, King of the Mountains, we got Pogačar leading Martinez in terms of count back there, but they're actually level on 60 points. But stage 18, a massive day for the King of the Mountains. We've got no fewer than 80 points up for grabs on this stage alone. So if one rider had to top all 3 climbs, he would actually comfortably be in the King of the Mountains jersey if the other guys didn't score big points. Right, Pogačar, slight drift there as well from 13 to 20 to 7 to 10. Martinez 3 to 1. Arensman 9s. Vingegaard, you can see I'll mention him later at 12 to 1. Certainly, if the break sticks tomorrow, there's every chance one of these guys could take the King of the Mountains, but there's also every chance that even a Jonas Vingegaard could lay a claim without really intending to tomorrow. And of course, Pogačar could wrap it up as well. Let's have a look at the stage. What an absolute brute it is. I'm doing things a little bit differently on this preview. I've actually made some notes. I normally, I do a bit of research, but I don't bother to make notes. But I'm so excited for the stage. I didn't want to miss anything. So I'm going to take you through those notes now, but have a look at that. We've got 3 outer category climbs, including the Col de Luz at the end there, 26.4 kilometers at 6.5%. 26.4 kilometers. I mean, that is just absolutely crazy. And bear in mind, it comes after you've done a couple of massive stages. There's, I think about 5,500 meters of climbing, 171.5 kilometers. But let's get into my analysis then. I've divided this race into basically 5 phases. The first is the green jersey sprint. You'll see it comes after 23.7. Now, 23.7 is certainly close enough for Lydell Trek to control the sprint and let Milan take the 20 points. I thought he might be needing those 20 points. He probably doesn't. I think they would have done the maths and say he doesn't. But I suspect that as the green jersey, he's going to want to lay down the marker and just consolidate. Make sure nothing can go wrong in Paris, like Pogačar winning a 50-point stage or something along those lines. So I expect Lidl Trek to keep it close. Maybe a small break will get ahead of them before the sprint, but I expect Milan to score some big sprint points there. That virtually takes us then straight into what I would call phase two, the Col de Glandon. And this is where I think the breakaway will form. 21.7 kilometers at 5.1%. But you can see you're already climbing here from probably about the 14, even about the 6 kilometer mark. You can see that you start to climb. So I think the break will form here. And that is going to be particularly interesting because, of course, you're going to get the strong mountain riders, the guys like Storer and Woods looking to go in the break. But at the same time, Visma, no doubt about it, they showed us in stage 16 up Mont Ventoux how they intend to ride this. That was one climb in the stage, and they managed to use their guys well to give Vingegaard every chance of cracking Pogačar. He failed to do so, but this stage is an absolutely different beast. There's no doubt Visma will send riders up the road. I'm expecting 2, possibly 3 Visma riders to go there. The trick is, and I'll get to it in the next phase of the thing, is they can't afford to leave Vingegaard without some other riders who can really up the tempo, up the second climb. UAE, Team Emirates, how are they going to react? At first, I was thinking, don't put anyone in the break, because the reason I was thinking that is their 2 riders they had in the break actually turned out to be pretty useless on stage 16. But the more I think about this, the more UAE have to also get probably a couple of riders into the break. And that is because this stage is so brutal. If they stay with Pogačar up this first climb, most of them will probably get dropped anyway. So if they're going to be useful, they may as well try to get into the break. And I'll talk about some key riders at the end. So I'm expecting them to place riders in the break because, and you'll see later when I'll actually bounce back one slide, but you'll see there about the 129 kilometer mark at the bottom of the Col de la Madeleine, you've got that valley floor, and that is where riders are going to be absolutely crucial. And also in the early stages of the Col de l'Ors. Right, let's go back then to my phase 3, the Col de la Madeleine. The pressure starts building here. Now, UAE, I think, will ride this fairly defensively, especially without Joao Almeida there. You know, they don't have anyone who's looking particularly strong in the mountains besides Pogačar. I think they're going to be quite happy to let the break go. In fact, they would like the break to go 15 minutes clear and fight out the stage. Visma, if they want to put their plan into operation, cannot afford to let that happen. They've got to keep the pressure on. And I think you're going to find them riding the Col de la Madeleine very, very hard indeed. Their aim will be to isolate Pogačar. As I said, he is without Almeida here. And I'm expecting Vingegaard to go at the top. And yeah, expect at this stage that Pogačar will definitely be able to stay with him. But when he gets to the top, expect to see someone like a Wout van Aert slowing down a bit and waiting for him to take him down the descent and onto the valley floor, where I expect potentially another teammate to be waiting as well. So, yeah, I'm expecting Visma to really turn the screws. Pogačar could well be isolated by what I will call phase 4, the valley floor here. And I predict, though, that he will have one teammate who would potentially have been up ahead. There is also a chance that Adam Yates, I think, could be with him. Yates hasn't looked his best, but, you know, they may have just been managing his effort a little bit up to this stage. And he is, as you'll see later, I think, one of the key men. I expect Vingegaard at this stage to have probably 2 teammates with him in the valley floor to keep the pressure on. And I think he'll probably still have one up ahead as well in what is left of the breakaway. This is an absolutely crucial phase to set up the final climb. Right, phase 5, the Col de l'Ors, the final battle. Vingegaard to attack fairly early on the climb. He'll use his team as far as he can. And then it's going to be a question of Pogačar's legs. If Pogačar's feeling strong, he'll initially ride defensively, and then he'll probably even counter quite far out. But if he's not feeling that great, I see him riding purely defensively and holding the wheel. Of course, he's got a 4-minute advantage. So even if he does lose Vingegaard's wheel at some stage, he needn't panic. And certainly he doesn't want to send himself into the red and blow himself up. At this stage, I expect the breakaway remnants to be caught. I did consider a breakaway win. And if it was up to UAE, like I said, I think they would be quite happy for the break to take the win. But I just think that Visma are going to keep the pressure on. They are going to throw everything. This is the gamble. Vingegaard said he's not interested in second place. He has a great opportunity to prove it. I expect the 2 of them then to go head-to-head for the stage win. You can see the climb on the right-hand side there. As I say, an absolute beast of a climb. Also because of its length. I mean, we've had climbs with steeper average gradients, but this is definitely in the top 3 of climbs that they're on the tour this year. Right, let's quickly look at some key men for the stage. For Visma, Sepp Kuss, he's going to be absolutely key. He started looking good towards the latter part of the stage. What role are they use him in? There's definitely a chance that Kuss could go in the break because he often used to be the last man standing for Vinegar. But I just have a feeling they might use Kuss on the Col de la Madeleine to set the tempo for Vinegar's attack. Simon Yates, and they could potentially swap roles, but I could well see Simon Yates in the break to potentially assist on the final climb. As I say, they could both be in the break, they could swap roles, but the point is, I think both of them are going to be key. They're going to both need good legs tomorrow. Victor Kampenaerts has been an absolute beast on this tour so far. Wout van Aert, I think they'll definitely want at least one of those guys up in the break as well, because they could certainly play a crucial role on the valley floor. I don't know how many of you watched the Giro when Simon Yates overturned a big deficit on the final day, and who was waiting for him on the descent of the final climb. Well, not quite the final climb, but the crucial climb, if I can call it that. It was Van Aert, and the other guys had no response. If he can be there in the valley, I expect Pogačar would still be there at that point. I mean, if there was a distance already, then Pogačar would be in big trouble. UAE Team Emirates, who the key men? Tim Wellens has been very strong, and I think they've got to send Wellens into the break. And the reason I say that as well is because Wellens isn't the strongest climber out there, and I think that he'd be isolated at least on the penultimate climb anyway. Well, not isolated, dropped. And at the end of the day, if they can get him in the break, and the break can get far enough ahead, he would be very useful for Pogačar to have in the valley section and perhaps the early slopes of the final climb. Adam Yates, like I said, he hasn't looked his best, but has he been holding back? Have they been holding him back a little bit? I'm actually expecting a big stage from Adam Yates tomorrow. No doubt Pogačar will need him. Right, just a reminder, World Sports Betting, I've got that Tour de France refund for second place finish, and you'll see I'll be looking to bet with them today. But let's first have a look at the stage 18 betting. You got 7-10 Pogačar. Gee, I got burnt on stage 16 where I thought he was an absolute sure thing for a top two. It took the 4-10. It wasn't pleasant at all. But 7-10, am I going to take him? Probably not. Vingegaard 4-1. You can get 20-1 and better the balance. Obviously, the likes of Arensman, Mas, Rodriguez, any of those guys, they would need to win from the break. Healy may well look to get into the break as well. There's such big gaps in the sort of top 10 and 15 riders. Certainly, Pogačar wouldn't have an issue with any of those going up the road. In fact, he'd be quite happy, I think, to have a strong break. We're going to get into my pick now. But really, if you are going to look past these top two, and I do think the break has a chance, because if Visma aren't able to ride the Col de la Madeleine aggressively enough, I think the break has a chance, because I don't expect UAE to chase it down. I do expect Pogačar to go for the stage if he's feeling good, and if Visma actually lead him into a position to win the stage. But I don't give the break no chance at all, and you'll see that now in my bets. Right, I'm getting quite involved in this stage. As I say, very, very excitable, like a kid at Christmas. 2 units, Vingegaard at 4-1 at WSB. I just got the feeling in stage 16 that Vingegaard is hitting his peak form, and there's been lots of talk about Pogačar not being that well. There was something about him on stage 16. I mean, he still got 2 seconds on Vingegaard in the end, but there was something about him that made you think he might be taking a bit of strain. And I think he's going to come. I mean, look, he's a great rider. Make no mistake, he might be in total control. But if I was him, I'd probably be having a sleepless night ahead of this one. And then I'm also going to go, let's give the breakaway a chance. I was quite surprised to see Woods at 100-1. Woods is a man who's won on some steep climbs before. And of all the guys in the break there, I would say that he is the one who could potentially go up. And if he is Iron that King of the Mountains, it's more important to win the final climb even than anything else, because, of course, it's worth double points. Right, then I'm going for a treble. Obviously motivated by my double I hit today. We got 1 unit at 14-1. I'm taking this at Bet Exchange. Arensman over Mas, both of them probably in the break. Mas, but both of them have been very good at some stage. I just think Arensman might be a better candidate. I think this stage will suit his diesel engine a bit. I'm going for him there. I'm going Roglic over Lipovic. It seems as though Roglic had to babysit Lipovic just a little bit the other day on Mont Ventoux. He may have to again. So, that's the reason he is an underdog here. But I just feel that Roglic's riding into some decent form. And I expect one of the top 10 at least to have an absolute blowout in this stage. And then I'm going Woods over Martinez. Of course, Martinez will be wearing polka dot. But I haven't been overly impressed with Martinez. He's been pretty inconsistent. And I think he might be there in the break, but I think he could be one of the first to pop. And I quite fancy Woods to beat him. And then I'm going for King of the Mountains, 1 unit, Vingegaard at 12-1. If, as I expect, the stage is ridden aggressively, there's a chance that he could pick up points on the Col de la Madeleine even. there's an outside chance the break could be caught. But if he does win the stage, 40 points, well, that's going to put him right in the mix for the King of the Mountains. That's it for stage 18. I can tell you, hold all my calls for Thursday afternoon. There's no ways I'm missing this stage. Hope you enjoyed the video and look forward to catching up with you for stage 19, which is a little bit of a transition one, I think, ahead of stage. We've got a big, I think we've also got a big plan there, getting carried away with myself here, but looking forward to that. And we'll see you late Thursday night after the rugby show, or potentially the early hours of Friday morning.